So I'd like to welcome all newcomers. You may not understand everything that you hear today, but please maintain an open mind. Just accept what feels right to you and let the rest lie quietly. You may want to pick it up at some future date. And to our old friends who we've seen many times, it's always great to see you coming back and to see your lovely friendly faces too. So before we get started, I'd like to introduce the platform for today. Now, I will be doing the address for the afternoon, and Alan Bennett, who is the Secretary for the Victorian Spiritualist Union, will be doing the demonstrations for the afternoon. So please make Alan very, very welcome. Now, I would like to explain to you that spiritualism is a progressive philosophy. It is based on natural phenomena, and we recognise no authority as final arbiter of belief. We adhere to no fixed doctrines or articles of faith. Each spiritualist is expected to believe only in that which is based on verifiable fact and their own personal experience. We have no fixed creed, and the majority of spiritualists accept the following 7 principles, and there's our principles just there on the board. The creative divine spirit of the universe, whom we call God. The unity of all created beings. The communion of spirits and ministering guides. The continuous existence of life beyond the veil of death. Communication between incarnate and discarnate spirits. Personal responsibility for all our actions whilst on earth. And a path of eternal progress open to all souls. We also believe that God is immanent spirit, and that we can best know him by consciously realising the inner presence of that element of his divine nature, which is our real self, and this is the spark that unites us all. Now, these principles have been updated over the last few years. There were ones that were brought through from Spirit many, many years ago. And as a philosophy, we are always looking to grow and develop and to be there as service to the community as it comes in. So we've updated the principles, but the essence of the words are exactly the same. It's about peace, love, humility, and it's about sharing and being of service to each other. And I think that's what Christmas brings out in us all. It brings out this energy of peace. Now, a lot of us aren't religious in the sense of going into an Orthodox church and perhaps needing to look at the more orthodox version of the Christian story. Some of us may not even be of a Christian faith, but I think Christmas and spiritualism and any philosophy actually is all wrapped up into one complete unit, and that is about loving each other, and it is about treating each other with respect, kindness, but most of all it's about giving our time in service to others. And for me, I think when I've been reflecting today and over the last few weeks about what Christmas is about for me, I think that's what it's about. A lot of the time we focus on the gifts because they're good, I'm thinking, okay, I like to get them, but gifts aren't always material. Quite often a gift comes from a smile, and that's probably the most precious gift. And have you noticed the most precious gems on earth are the smallest that you can find, like diamonds? And the most beautiful and elegant, like the pearl, comes from deep within the sea, almost like in the mysteries, in the darkness. And it comes up and it's just so exquisite. We just covet them. We love them. So today I wanted to really work with you and talk to you about what Christmas is about, not just for me, but I think for everyone as we're looking for this. We've heard about the Mayan philosophies, I'm quite sure. The end of days, well, people, I have to laugh. You've only got a few more days on the calendar. Are you ticking them off? Well, live it up, okay? Because it's all about to end, and I'm sorry. I think it goes deeper than that. I don't think it's about the end, bang, gone, because when you read the Bible, when you read these texts, they were always saying that the end of days was near. There's always been the good news. That was what the disciples went out to spread with Jesus. It was the good news that the earth would change, there would be massive catastrophes, and it was end of days. Well, 2,000 years on, I'm still here. And there's been history and history and history that's built upon that. But what if the message is not physical? What if that message is more about a shift of consciousness? What if it's about your spirituality? Now, as you look at the spiritual aspect, and I just kept thinking about this. I've done this for 2 weeks, and I've been looking at it from every angle, because that's the way my brain works. I can't help myself. And I kept looking at the whole idea of the spiritual movement and the philosophies that's come in. And every single one of them has been telling us that it takes a shift in consciousness, not necessarily from the external world, but more about the shift in consciousness from within each person. Does that make sense? Because I think that's the good news. I think that's what it was always about, and I think that's what the great masters came in to teach us. And I think through the spiritualist philosophy, we have been hearing this message both through spirit, through mediums who connect in with their guides, and who do trance lectures. And I think they've been trying to get this message through to us since the philosophy was conceived and the conception of we can live after we die. In fact, it may just be the other way around. What happens when we pass away from the physical world? I actually believe that it's more like that's when your life begins, and you turn around then and you say, oh my goodness, I had a dream. I think I had a life. And you know what? Oh my God, I was married and had a couple of kids, and God, did they give me a hard time. Right? I had a mother and a father. Was that real? Pinch me. And my son was sitting in the car with me one day, and we were just driving down the street, and he'd been talking to his friend about this. And they had come to the realization themselves that this might be reality. And he was 16 at the time. Now, at that moment, I wanted to get down on my knees, and if anyone wanted to say hallelujah, it was me. Whoa, 16 years old. How much insight has this kid got? But that is the innocence of the child, which is why we should never lose her. Which is why we should never get old. Which is why we should, no matter how old we are on the earth, our spirit never ages. And we should always remember to have fun and take the time to enjoy the gifts that we get in the earth. Don't you think? So when I've been thinking about Christmas and what it brings, to me, it doesn't bring stuff. It brings time for other people, because I think that is what we lack in our life. The shift of consciousness is moving into no time. Fourth dimension. We're in third dimension, and the law of physics govern the earth. But the masters knew, the Buddhas, the Krishnas, Jesus, they knew that we are only governed by time if we allow that time to own us, and we lose our spirit and we forget. And when we go within and start the spiritual journey, I mean, when we really go within and start seeking answers, and let's face it, when we start seeking those answers, it's usually because there's a catastrophe in our life. If everything is going well, we're quite happy. But when things start going a little bit awry, then we start to question. So for me, I actually believe that everything that goes out of skew in your life, as the challenges come in and as you feel overwhelmed, I think that's heaven's way of saying, you're too comfortable. We need to shake it up and help you to go deeper into your consciousness, because there's answers that you no longer want to have answered for you. Did you get that? There is things that you need to look at from a different perspective. And when you ask questions, you get answers that you have always got. But when those answers do not fill your soul any further, you will go within. Now that, to me, is the shift in consciousness. It cannot be anything else. Where do you go when that happens? Well, most people will go up, because that's what we've been taught. Now, I've never seen an atheist in a crisis. Whether you believe in God or any other form of divine creative force, or whether you don't, when there's chaos ensuing, the first thing you're going to do is more than likely pray, God help me. Whether it's just a parroted, repetitive prayer, but generally that's what comes. And I think it comes because that is the truth. There is a God consciousness, and it's not outside of you, it's inside. That's spiritualism. Because you'll get information in a book that can enhance the journey, but it won't answer your mysteries. So when I have been in what I call spiritual madness, when a reality I needed in my life started to come apart at the seams, and when chaos came knocking on my door, and I just couldn't understand and get insight, I started to look deeper inside my belief structure. And I asked a question. And it was a very simple question. What belief no longer serves me? What am I dismantling? What no longer serves my life, so what has to leave my life? If it doesn't serve you, then you can't take it with you as you make the shift into consciousness. They are all false gods. Baal. All through the biblical scripture, the false gods, the idol worship. I don't believe that it was actually the graven little things that they were actually talking. They're metaphoric. The external power sources that you've put so much of your energy into believing you need in your life to make it okay, function, smooth, it starts to own you. When it starts to own you, you lose your spirit. So before you can make the shift into the new conscious paradigm, it seems reasonable that you might reflect on false beliefs that no longer serve you. You've outgrown them. They're dead weight. Now the problem with that is we like structure and we don't like change. And these things come as change. Relationships fail. People we love go home. We're faced with the death of something in our life. Spiritualism teaches you there is no death. That's the illusion. As we shift our perception and see ourselves as this is one fragment of who I am. One fragment. I am 99% spirit. Fantastic. And that 99% never came into incarnation. It's my spirit. Now what was born was a vehicle. Spirit called it an instrument that can be used by our soul. And as it's used by the soul, what's the soul? Well, what did you need to look at this time in your life? Did you need to look at the fear of abandonment? Did you need to look at the universal fear of truth? There's so many people who cannot handle a truth. A mother who loves her child and would die for them, but is so scared to be alone, because that's another fear, abandonment, alone, truth, that they turn a blind eye to an abuse that's going on. That's where a universal truth will come in, a fear of that, because it will dismantle our life. So, when we're faced with all of this, this is what our soul encompasses, because honestly, that in itself is what you came in and has to be in your auric field, your chakra system, your memory banks, your history. It's your life history. When a medium, or I should say a psychic, looks energetically, they may get a glimpse of that, but they won't get the whole picture, because they are only seeing like a photocopy that's sitting in the energy field filled with your expectations. Mediumship, as taught by the spiritualist philosophy, teaches you that you connect to spirit. And what is spirit but your oversoul? It is every aspect of you who has ever been in creation, has ever had any experience, both spiritually, both physically. It is that oversoul that encompasses your entire Akashic record. But more than that, if there's no time, no space, it's every potential that you are lining up from here to eternity. Because there's no time, and every possibility. Now, mediumship taught me this. Trance mediumship, week after week, year after year, allowing myself to be used as an instrument, taught me about vertical time. And the spiritualist philosophy taught me how to do that and supported me in the journey through it. And vertical time, if you want to truly understand what it is to be conscious and be a co-creative force, it's very new age. You can create your own reality. Well, yeah, but guess what? If you're doing it through that lens of what no longer serves you because you fear dismantling it, you're only going to create another copy of what resonates in your heart, whether or not you accept it as truth, the universal fear of truth. So it lines up magnetically, and you've been taught by this from so many different people, that when this lines up, it is vertical time, which means from the heart cannot lie to you. Your heart will always tell you the truth. Your brain is a liar, because it will tell you fibs. You don't need that. Oh, you don't need that. Your heart says, oh yeah, I do. That was the word covered. Right? So as it lines up, it's that truth that lines up vertical time, and every possibility lines up. And when you anchor into it, you create it. You bring yourself that much closer to creating it, and fear is usually what we line up for ourselves as we walk back through that door of unconsciousness. The shift of ages, people, is actually really simple. I was so astounded at how simple it was. I actually took a moment to say to my guy, Paul, as he brought this to it, and the many other ones that came in, my God, I've been so stupid. I've looked at book after book and made this so complicated. It's really not. If I check in with my heart, and I know that from a space in my heart that comes from do no harm, not to me, not to others, but to lose that sense of self, then how on earth can I miss creating that higher frequency in my life that will bring that abundance to me, to take me into the next level of my life? Just feels so simple. So for me, when I look at Christmas, I just love it, Because everyone says it. You saw them? Guess what? There's not a lot of peace on earth, is there? I mean, really? There's none really at all. Just turn on the Channel 9 news. It's going to tell you about all the disharmony. Now, if you were to actually think about it, right and wrong, we're right, you're wrong. I mean, wars are fought on that principle. But if you were to look at a grieving mother, I don't care what country on earth that you stand in, when you look at a mother holding her baby in her arms, she's praying to a God. Why did you take my baby? Is that your God that's a righteous God? I don't think so. I think that there are no rights and wrongs in this. I just think that we need to be right. And God help you if you don't agree with me, because we'll force you and throw that template into every other aspect of your life. Because the need to be right is the source of your madness, and you will die to defend it. Is that not true? You will justify it. You will make up the most fantastic excuses God ever put on this earth, and you will be right. You will always be right. I am very invested in that. And I think most of us are if we were honest. And we should celebrate it. Because if we didn't have that, life would be very boring. Why else would you be born on the earth if you were not here to be challenged? I don't think you're right. Let's go to war. Because there's no death. There's no physical death. We begin life when we go home. And when we go home, there's no judge, jury and sentencing person sitting there going, by God, you are a horror of a human being. You're not in my book. Down there. Off you go. It's not going to happen. You are going to look for one thing as you review your behaviour. I mean, that frightens me just into behaving myself. The whole thought of having to review this life and seeing everything that perhaps I'm less than proud of and I wouldn't want to share with anyone else. Oh my Lord in heaven. All right. But then Spirit taught me it's got nothing to do with that either. A total myth perception. All you're going to do is look at how it played out, and then you know what? You're going to feel that person's pain. You're going to feel their joy. You're going to know how your behaviour had an effect on their life for the long term. That's terrifying. Because I know a lady who was the most wonderful artist, and some teacher walked up to her in her secondary years and says, don't give up your day job. And she was 60 before she picked up a paintbrush. One sentence. Now that's what you're going to review when you pass over. And that, as a soul and spirit, is going to traumatize you. I don't care who you are. You're going to put your hand up and you're going to say, front of the queue, I am going back there because I can do it better. And now we have reincarnation. It's marvellous, isn't it? And it's really simple. It's not a hard thing to grasp. Do unto others as you would have done to yourself. And shut your mouth. If you've got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. That's a good way to live, I'm thinking. And I'm trying very hard, people, to live by that philosophy, and it is not easy for me. But I pick myself up repeatedly. So, Christmas is a time that we can share that belief in God, in spirit, in heaven, in the divine, and all in all, just the goodness of humanity. Because if I believe I am an essence and a divine spark of that creative force, that made this whole earth possible, then you reflect that spark. And every other person on earth is mirroring God back to you in whichever way you believe it. And the spiritualist philosophy tells you, don't take our word for it. Question, seek, and go and find out for yourself. Because I can stand here and talk to you till the cows are singing blue. But until you experience how it feels to have a communication with that sacred part of heaven, which is spirit, you, then it's just words. See, I know that this is a truth. Because Alan will stand up and he'll do his evidence of survival, and you'll see it for 10 minutes, or get a reading for 5 minutes. But when you live it, and you spend years working with people, trying to seek answers and having that communication with spirit, you'll be brought to your knees and you'll be humbled. You will be humbled. Because one thing that is uniquely human, and that is that we love those that we leave on the earth, and that we want to let them know that we're okay. And in knowing that they're okay, we bring peace. And when we bring peace, we bring healing. And when we have healing, we just are. We're just okay. And I've watched ladies, gentlemen, children who have lost loved ones almost realign their spirit when they've actually gone, nobody could know that I put that in his pocket, in his coffin. But you know that. How could you know that? I don't even remember your name. However, your son, well, his spirit is right here. And do you know how hard it is for him to make that communication? His love is so complete for you. What an honour. And if you're not humbled by that, then there really is a lot of work for you to do on the earth, and I'll see you next time. Oh God, I can't feel myself. Alright, so I've probably spoken for long enough, but see, that's the point of life to me, and that's my philosophy to live by. And I wanted to share it, and I really appreciate the fact that you've been so courteous, and that you've sat there and listened to me, perhaps pontificate, who knows. However, it's from my heart. I mean every word of it, and I believe every word of it. And I'll speak it and I'll say it for as long as it takes, because I do believe that on some level I was born with a gift of mediumship, because this was my path of service. So your spiritual journey is about finding your own. And I really sincerely hope that you do. And I thank you for your love and attention this afternoon.